All right, good morning, everybody. We have 14 participants online. That is great. Today we have Brian Healy from RedRose, who works in business development. He knows so many colleagues at CRS and has worked in many countries on emergency response and other programs implementing RedRose. So in this case, we are aiming to have one of our core basket of tools once a month, so that we can learn from tools that everybody or many people across the agency are using. And I was looking at RedRose, and the last presentation we had was from 2015, so we definitely need an update here. We know a lot's been going on. We're going to have some people from CRS come in and talk about CAT as well, some things they're working on for CRS with RedRose. So thank you so much. We're going to record this. We're going to share it on our video webinar, and it's also going to be in some one-pagers that we have coming up soon in case you need to refer back to it. So without further ado, Brian, take it away. Oh, and we're trying video if you haven't noticed. And that is all because of Brian. So Brian was really enthusiastic about engaging speakers and engaging the audience and trying new things. And so we were brainstorming, came up with video. So I really appreciate Brian being my guinea pig to do that. So thank you, Brian.
No problem, Catherine. Thanks very much for the introduction. And hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. So I suppose we're going to talk about cache-based intervention and the RedRose One System technology that we're using, and how CRS over the last 2 years has adopted our technology, and we've signed up in a global agreement. And what we've pretty much produced our own system through CRS called the Cache and Assets Transfer Management. So the first acronym of the day is CAT. And that's the CRS tool using our system. So just a quick intro really on, I'll refer to RedRose and then I'll kind of formally introduce into the system of CAT. So really what RedRose is, we are basically, RedRose is a secure, easy to use, digitalized software platform that enables humanitarian organizations to manage all the cache programs and to improve operational efficiency. And the main point is to ensure programs remain relevant and fit for purpose. And we pride ourselves really in our ability to be flexible and to customize to our clients. But in the context of CRS, our clients can, it's basically different countries. So we know that something that we're doing in Haiti may not really be relevant for Nigeria. So we don't push just the one system, one for all. We can adjust and modify it. So that's a very important factor. And just briefly, a little bit about myself and RedRose. I come from a humanitarian background, which is very important. We believe within RedRose, and myself and my other colleague have up to 20 odd years working in the sector. So I did humanitarian work throughout South Sudan and Pakistan and Haiti and all that. I suppose the reason why I mentioned that is that we've experienced the aid sector. We know the challenges, we know the environments, and we know the realities of operating such technology in areas such as Somalia or DRC, because we've actually lived and worked out there. The technical element of RedRose stems from our Turkish technicians, great team of people working there, guys and girls, and they've been involved in this technology for over 18 years. And while this technology is relatively new to the humanitarian sector, it's been around for a long time. And our technicians have been engaged in this in the private sector throughout Turkey. So they've a lot of experience in this sector.
This is an example from...
What we've done is we've merged together now, and we've used our humanitarian experience and their technology, and we've created the RedRose One solution. And what we want to do today is to introduce the key features and show how it's evolved into the CRS integrated project called the CAT, Cache and Asset Transfer system. So without further ado, I'll just proceed with the slide, and then I'm hoping that we have our specialist from RedRose, who worked on the Nigeria project, to explain a little bit more about the BedNet. We'll have, hopefully in the background there somewhere as well, we might have some of the CRS HRD people who can elaborate a little bit more on the CAT. So for those of you who don't know, what is RedRose and this technology? Basically, RedRose is operational just under 3 years now, and we've seen a sharp rise, thankfully, in our operations globally. Currently, we work with up to 18 NGOs and donors in nearly 25 countries, 50 programs, and a large number of beneficiaries. So our ability to work at scale is now being proven, and Nigeria in particular with CRS is a fine example. And we're operating on a broad global frame, I suppose, stemming from Guatemala all the way over to Thailand. And as of tomorrow, we'll be over in the Philippines with CRS. So we're very excited about that. And there's a lot in between, as you can see, in Africa and Asia. But one of the real reasons why we mention that is our Skype support network, which I will talk about later, covers all these time zones. So there's always someone on 7 days a week answering questions from Guatemala to Thailand. So the one solution is a secure offline, and security is a paramount feature in everything we do, and beneficiary data is our main priority, the protection of it, and our ability to work offline and online. Online life is made somewhat easier, still complex with programs, but the offline factor and the ability to stay relevant and fit for purpose is something that we pride ourselves in. And the key features of the system, basically, our beneficiary management, our systems delivery, surveys and feedback, and data analytics. So we like, in a way, to go start to end, like from the registration of a beneficiary all throughout the distributions and down to detailed M&E features. Our general operational flow will show you, as I just previously mentioned, how we can register beneficiary with our certain tools and track changes. Our systems delivery manages multiple funds from multiple donors, and our different modalities such as eCash vouchers, in-kind, can be done simultaneously with a certain beneficiary. And the surveys, which everything that I mentioned here is customized according to the individual country, and surveys and feedback all customized in any language. We can do the PDM, market surveys, complaints, feedback. And one of the major components, which is, I suppose, very relevant for the NGO sector, is to have all of this data and to be able to churn out a detailed, accurate, customized M&E reports. So we've real-time monitoring, dashboards, and data analytics. The software that RedRose uses, basically the management comes from our one platform, which is on your desktop or your laptop. And then the tools for gathering all the information and data, we've our one app here on the left. And that would be used from the vendor, but also from CRS staff, in this example. And that could be in a health clinic where there could be a hygiene promotion. And the beneficiary using their card will use our gather the data off the one app. And also simultaneously the RedRose Collect app can be used, and that's ODK based. So that can be used to register beneficiaries and in turn to stimulate surveys and post-distribution monitoring reports. Hardware that we use, we have a list of specifications that we use for the hardware that have to be adhered to, but in general, any Android device, and they're all moving into the same specifications. So NGOs can purchase their own material if need be. Obviously, considerations have to be given to customs and in particular, some countries are tend to be tougher than the others. So that planning, as we had a meeting in Nigeria recently, we discussed the planning involved. We have a mobile Bluetooth printers for those who want to print receipts, and biometrics, which is now featured in. I mean, biometrics is a very interesting subject. It's viewed as the most secure way of beneficiary verification, but it's not always used in countries. It's got certain complexities about it in certain regions and areas. So that's really up to program management. But the option is there for biometrics, and we are using it widely throughout the field. And the main thing really on this is our smart card, which has the NFC, near field communication. And that NFC enables contactless communication and it secures the exchange. The data information is retained within the chip in the card. It's kind of based similar on the Oyster card system in London. And through that feature enables us to have our offline modality because all the information is stored within that chip and is eventually transferred then onto the app of the phone. And it's only when that is synced that the information is relayed to the dashboard. Our beneficiary data, register or import. For those who aren't fully aware that if you were to take on a RedRose pilot or a project, and if you already have gone through the process of registering your beneficiaries, you don't have to repeat that exercise because everything within the RedRose system is we can enable to import or to export. So as you can see, we've opened Data Kit on an iPhone Builder. So any beneficiary registration from a third-party data can be imported. If not, we can customize and do our own RedRose Collect in any language and basically register the beneficiary, etc., or the surveys on that aspect. And just a quick view of some screenshots. Sorry, I'll just go back to the RedRose Collect. One important aspect is if you were to decide to use biometrics, then of course you would have to use the RedRose Collect for your data because we have to get the fingerprints. And our beneficiary manage groups, just to give you a general idea of what the dashboard looks like, and we've got some screenshots up here as you hopefully can see. I mean, with the management, it's absolute, the level of details of, it's very high, but again, it can be customized to, for some countries it's too much, for some it's too little, and within reason, we have the flexibility to customize a dashboard to suit your needs. And we can create groups based on any criteria, generate maps, lists, send group SMS, all from the dashboard, you know, by forming groups within communities or villages. And the identity and verification. So, I mean, with the smart card, as you can see, you can customize it any way you wish or personalize it any way you wish with names and numbers and photographs as it's culturally or ethnically sensitive. CRS and the HRD team may tell you more, looking to structure the one card for CRS that hopefully will work throughout all the countries. But as you can see on the card, the main feature is up to 80 wallets. So a RedRose smart card is a multiple wallet, multiple modality, and it's multiple donor. And in fact, it's also multiple NGO. We currently have a project in Nigeria where 3 NGOs are working, where one individual beneficiary is registered with our card, but 3 beneficiaries are doing distributions from that one card. So that, I think, going forward is an important feature for future large-scale emergencies, where many NGOs will be coming in with their own systems. And in this case, you can just have the one card, hopefully serve all. But that's down the line. So that's the card, and it's contactless, and it's got its secure embedded chip. And on our management profile, you'll always have an overview of your beneficiaries and a detailed transaction. I mean, all to emphasize the point, after the distribution of the cards to the beneficiary, and after you top up your groups, which is fully authorized using the dashboard, the devices then are sent out to the field with the app, say to a vendor. And after a day's transaction, once the devices are synchronized, um, all the information changes on your dashboard to real time. So you'll always have an overview of the beneficiary, be it an individual beneficiary or a group of beneficiaries. And then you can go back for audit or reports, or if there's complaints, you can have a detailed transaction history of one individual person to settle disputes or financial complaints. And just this screen here shows kind of three screenshots all combined into one. And you can track updates over time of your beneficiary for an audit trail. So when you registered that beneficiary, you may not have used biometrics, but as time progresses, you may have introduced it. You can go to that individual file and see the history of transactions and distribution that have been attributed to that beneficiary. I think one of the most, for cash for work, having worked on cash for work projects myself previously, when I was in Haiti, it was after the earthquake, there was a lot of cash for work projects, but I mean, the accountability of did people turn up and how did we know? So we've set up a system where if allowed, using the same card that the beneficiary can get NFI from or hygiene training from, they could do a cash for work project and the pictures taken of them as they arrive, pictures taken when they leave, and it all automatically populates an Excel timesheet and leads to payment. All of this is done digitally without manual entry. So it's a very useful tool, and I could see it being useful in situations like Haiti or the Nepal earthquake. And very important is the ability to register feedback and complaints and manage updates. And complaints can come from vendors themselves or it can come from beneficiaries. So we will show the team in our training how the system can operate and everything can be registered and issued a ticket in a way so we can go back and address these issues and make sure it's addressed fairly. Our dashboards are a major feature of them, and wouldn't have enough just as their time to show the full features of a dashboards here, but it's real-time information, it's fully customizable for your KPIs, and it's exportable to Excel. And you hover on these dashboards and they will give you, I suppose they'll give you all your percentages, the graphs in full detail. So when the devices are synced, and you can tell percentage of males that turned up at a distribution and females. So we use beneficiary, vendor, transaction, and we've market dashboards. So these are all your KPIs. And M&E will tell us what they want, and within reason, hopefully, we can reduce it. Our mechanism is basically the modality we use on our closed loop is e-voucher currency, in-kind, paper vouchers, direct in-kind, and SMS closed loop. Paper vouchers are basically, in my view, is that's on the way out. They could be used as a last resort in some situations. So we have secure hologram paper vouchers, but only usually on a sudden onset emergency. But we're providing a system, a kit emergency the transportation, the distribution, and then the reverse pattern of collecting those vouchers, bringing them back, the time that used, and it's costly. Well, if you issue out a smart card with multimodality, multi-feature,
Um,
someone in the background there.
Alhaji, can you mute your speakers? We're getting some background noise. Thank you.
So, and that's that's where we're going with this. Excuse me, is to remove all that repetitive, not to mention the weight and the bulk of paper and everything, and it's cost efficient and added value for having one card to be used continuously over the cycle of the project for all modalities. Our open loop system, when applicable, prepaid cards, and it's working with financial service providers or FSP. And this is something that we are working with the HRD team through CRS. So we're really looking to scale up these type of operations and kind of to pre-position global agreements with financial service providers, banks, or communication networks. So in advance as much as we can. And these are projects that will definitely be picked up over throughout the end of this year and going into next year. And our pilot that we're off to in the Philippines will be looking into stuff like this. And as I mentioned there before, special types of work, conditional programs, cash flow work. So conditional, unconditional, restricted, unrestricted. They're the big words, and our system has the ability to manage all of these remotely too. So it's all comprehensive. And is everything's the end product, what we try to achieve is something that's delivered easy. And that goes through the user from the NGO, through the person such as the vendor. And we're aware of the complexity of so many different countries, especially what CRS works in. CRS works in a vast array of countries spanning the globe, and we know that not every user, say, using an Android device, may not have that much experience in it, or may be dubious, especially vendors, could be kind of when they're not seeing money in certain areas and people come with cards. So we have a responsibility to have a efficient system to restore confidence in communities and with the likes of vendors. And we have done our best, of course, in the back room, there's a lot of detailed work, but the final result for the NGO is an easy to use platform. And for the vendor, easy to use touchscreen and Androids, and most importantly for the beneficiary is their confidence and dignity that they get, where they can just go using their card, realizing they don't have to spend it all in one day if the program allows. And most importantly, I think to have the dignity to be able to choose which vendor that they go to. And if a vendor doesn't have appropriate or inadequate supplies or is rude, they can just go to the next. And that's one of the major objectives on this too, is benefit, dignity to the beneficiary. Just 4 screenshots for those, I mean, quite a few would see, but this is what an Android, what a vendor would see as just one of a food transaction. And on the one on the left, these images, we can go to the actual market and take photos. An example, in Ethiopia, you're taking photos of fish, which was on the sales basket, and you can upload that local image onto the sales basket, which will appear on the phone. This also being the beneficiary, many are illiterate and they're more comfortable with an image from the local market and something Googled from YouTube or something. And our sales baskets, very easy to use, all touch screen in any language, and you can any dimension. As our unit prices can be set, or you can have a range from the highest to the lowest range. If people breach that, if they're allowed, it's picked up on the system, or you just set the price yourself after your market survey. And you can always tell using your smart card, entering your PIN, and all the security features on that, You can tell your balance, what's left and what's remaining. Most importantly, especially on an offline setting, is there'll be no overspends. The card will not allow you, if you've 10 Nira and you go to spend 11, the card will just won't allow you. It's as simple as that. So in an offline setting, there's no overspends. Well, there's no overspends anyhow. And for finance, authority levels and full record history, I mean, this is vital for your own records, and it's also for donor confidence and for future audits. We'll import the NGOs segregation of duties. This is a project that we're working on now with the HRD. So it just stops unauthorized people allocating money to groups. It would stop a logistician approving a financial payment. Whatever your system that you have, your due diligence system that you have in place now, we'll import that. So only authorized people are allowed to implement actions that they've been assigned to. And also, I mean, a really great feature is your financial documents will be, as soon as the devices are synchronized in the field, they will populate your financial documents. And you can have kind of a small example down here, is you can print that out immediately on an A4 without typing it in. So you're reducing a lot of long, laborsome hours, repetitive paperwork, going room to room for signature. You're now digitalizing everything, and it's cost efficient and I believe added value. Our vendor accounts are pretty much very similar to our beneficiary accounts. You know, you can see all transactions, all information, and you could put a mark and the reason why if a vendor was blacklisted, etc. And our M&E tools are forever changing, which is a great sign, because we're always our ability to adapt and be flexible and to grow with projects. And the more people we work with too, the more we learn and the more that we put into our system. So it's really a great tool. The M&E features are real detailed. You indicators, as I say, all your KPIs will change. You'll always be able to see the grant, your budget, and the health of your budget. As soon as you synchronize your phones, all that information will change, how much money is left on your budget. So it's a very useful tool, a very modernized tool. And it also means, you're not waiting for reports to come from if you're in Addis Ababa or your country director stuck in an airport in Paris. You can quickly log in and see what's happened and what was done this day with all the graphs and charts. And you can manage any number of attached surveys, question data fields. As I mentioned before, with your M&E tool, you can customize it accordingly. We also are working with we've integrated with a system called Pentaho, and that enables us basically an individual user with the integration with Pentaho, meaning if I'm a nutritionist, I can create my own chart, my own mini dashboard. So I don't have all the other features that are not really relevant for me. I can just create and capture the nutritional elements. And as the master dashboard populates itself, my individual dashboard will populate. And straight again, I can create graphs, charts, and export it without me manually typing or data entry physically. So it's a really quick and useful tool. We would be able, for anyone out there listening, to give you, obviously we have a lot of information on our system architecture, and we can share this data in full detail, and we can connect you with our technicians who can give your IT people a full explanation. I mean, a quick overview of all that goes on behind in the back room. Most importantly is it's hosted because we treat beneficiary data as our first priority, the security, and the RedRose system is hosted by Amazon Ireland and Amazon Frankfurt. And other small features, vitally important, like the vendor. This is the point of sale. The phone will be at the time. It's up to the individual country on how they'll use that. Will they do an MOU with the vendor, or will they collect the phone at the end of the day? Each country differs, but we will lock these devices. So the device is only one single purpose, and that's point of sale. In effect, it's a cash register. And so for such reasons, if the phone was stolen, nobody can access it and nobody can get beneficiary information. But it also stops people in a way going on online and browsing football results or something and filling the phones with bugs. So we'll share this presentation and people are willing to contact me and we can explain more. That'll be no problem. And the general concept, this is also another feature that we're working with the HRD team for the CRS project, and it's part of the CAT program, is our deployment. And we're not confined to a matter of days. Obviously, travel is a consideration for technicians, and my trip to the Philippines is the bones of 2 days travel. I'm here in Ireland, so that won't be featured. So we get there, have a day's rest, and then but we look to do our overall training in 5 days. This may be increased to 6. And the concept there is to get the key players, and we do obviously as much work and pre-planning is done before anybody gets on an aeroplane. And we want to utilize those days to full effect from the day we start the training, not arrive jet lag, from the day we start the actual training. And we want to make sure that the admin is there and the program and the M&E is there and the logs are there and finance on days that are attributed to them. And also we can train vendors if need be, or train people to train the vendors. And a very important feature of this, the CAT system is now looking at a kind of a 7 steps system, which William might be able to explain a little bit about later. And that's just, an introduction on how to activate RedRose, how to contact, how do we look at the steps involved in getting the pilot and approval. But also with training, it's worth to note that we can do remote training where security situations don't allow expatriates in particular to travel. And we've done for various clients, and also including CRS, we've done remote training for Somalia in Nairobi. We traveled to Somalia ourselves or other clients, and we've done in Djibouti for Yemen and Lebanon for Syria. So remote management can be done, and the team on the ground then can implement the project, and everything can be managed then from the remote area. So I think what I'm going to do is just really give a quick talk about the cash and assets transfer management platform, and we've hopefully have Donal O'Reilly and William Martin there, and they will quickly introduce themselves and speak a small bit about this. So with what is the CAT platform? So since December 2016, there's been a global agreement signed with RedRose to build a CAT prototype. And this is the overall, as it says itself, there is data management system for information gathered during the design, distribution, and monitoring of cash and asset transfers designed through the RedRose system. So from now on, we'll call it CAT. And so there's been a lot of work, great work put in with the team in Baltimore and some of the international team, such as William Martin and Alan Grundy, working abroad on this. And we've piloted this throughout several countries now with CRS, DRC, using the FIRST project, Nigeria, hopefully, which we'll hear more about. And there's Haiti, response to Hurricane Matthew, Somalia, Mali, and we now have a long program running with CRS in Guatemala, which is great. And we're looking at development of the KitKat. And the KitKat, in effect, is an emergency preparedness kit. We're in discussions with Don O'Reilly about pre-positioning kits. Where's the next disaster going to be? Nobody knows. Sudden onset disasters. So we're looking at positioning kits in the region. This kit will enable basically a few experienced CRS staff who are experienced with the CAT system could be deployed with a kit and assess the situation on the ground, and hopefully within a matter of days, 2 or 3 days, be doing cash-based interventions. But most importantly, all the data is gathered on the web and is shared. And as a former emergency response worker with the old systems, a lot of data is lost in those first few weeks because systems aren't in place, there's no internet, there's no nothing. The CAT system has the ability to work offline, the information is stored, and eventually when it's synchronized, it's in the cloud. This is very important for an audit 1 year, and they come in from an audit the first month of an emergency. And we hope to change the accountability. And it's 3 primary functions to manage beneficiary information for better targeting, registration, and delivery of the humanitarian assistance, and to consolidate and execute in a single platform of, I tried to demonstrate there, any kind of transfer modality, cash vouchers or in kind. And as I said, our aggregator function, including the integration of local international FSPs, where allowed. And we centralize our monitoring, reporting, and reporting systems for ease of access and used by CRS staff. So we want CRS staff in the project in, for example, Ethiopia. We would like someone as remote and rural in Kandela to have access to the CAT system. The management and country program manager can access it in Addis. And then in Baltimore, people could sit with a donor and see what actions are being carried out. And a quick view, we already have up and running our global dashboard, which is great. So this is just a quick snapshot. This changes by the day, and you can see the countries, you can see which data, which donors are involved, and a little bit blurry there, but what food and everything you can click on, wash activities or NFIs, and you can see the general countries and missions and households. And this is a great feature for senior staff to sit down with USAID or ECHO or donors and such like that. And just a good program overview for CRS. Thank you. I think I might just give, after speaking about CAT, before we go to questions, and hopefully Nigeria, I will maybe give the floor to Don O'Reilly if he's there, if he wants to say a few words.
Hello, and thanks, Brian, and hello everybody else. Hi, Catherine. I can see you there now. I'll just say, well, maybe a couple of quick points. As Brian mentioned, we're moving sort of more from the pilot. We've been doing this for about 2 years, or different country programs have been doing it. And the idea is to move away now from a pilot and start to sort of institutionalize more what we're doing in what we call CAT now, as Brian points out. So we had our big workshop, more like a right workshop in Nigeria a couple of months ago. And we're developing SOPs. What we found was, Guatemala,
tell us what
Haiti,
SOPs are, just for people. Thank you.
Standard operating procedures.
Thank you.
So what we found was, different countries were kind of doing it different ways and applying it different ways, and had different types of dashboards that they developed themselves. And this is in some ways showed the flexibility of the RedRose support, that it was very much could be tailored for country programs, but at the same time, that doesn't help us at a global level when we try to aggregate up information. So also we found there were some flaws in the system, like in the sense that we have to make sure that we're compliant with CRS's policies around disbursement of finance, payment of vendors, and so we have to make sure that what country programs and how they're applying CAT is also in compliance with policy. So that's what the SOPs are really going to do. And William is working on them with the team, and we're going to hopefully have them out by mid-October. And at that point, we expect to see a little bit more alignment of how CAT is working across the agency. I'll just also mention, it's not just, it tends to be talked about as a sort of a cash project and voucher, but it's more than that. This is a management tool for all project aspects of asset transfer. So it can be used for direct distributions as well. And the idea here is that often in emergencies we do direct distributions first and then move into cash and asset transfers. And we want to be able to have a system that has that flexibility. And the CAT system has that to a degree, to a large degree. The part where we're trying to work on more now, and it's starting to come to, we're starting to see light at the end of that tunnel, is the integration with financial service providers. And the idea here is that when you're integrating with a bank or a mobile money provider, that we have to be able to have our system speak to their system. So there's some work going on this in Somalia, and I think a few other places where, but this is cutting edge. This is very much cutting edge in the industry itself, in the humanitarian industry. So it's not something that we're behind on. I just say the flexibility is important. What we found with working with RedRose is that this is a very bottom-up approach. The only reason we're moving forward with this is that country programs, people in the field operating and using this very much like it. They like what it does for them, how it reduces their workload, how it creates a greater level of accountability, and the flexibility of RedRose to adapt to the needs in the field has been very important in this. But so all that and says that we see a good reason to move forward with this and move from a pilot into a more general use of CAT. I don't know if William, you want to add anything?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is William Martin. I'm the technical advisor on Cash and Market. So thank you, Donald and Brian. I think you said a lot on the CAT, so I will just keep it short to make sure we have time for questions. And also maybe bring a little bit like a big picture level to understand how it fits into the humanitarian context. So first of all, maybe if you want to use the cash and asset transfer management platform, please do contact me, william.martin@crs.org. I'm the point of contact at CRS for it, and copy and or send also to Brian Healy, who just made the presentation from RedRose, and we can take it from there and help you to see how it could work in your country program. Then I wanted to say we are working closely. So HRD team has a couple of people working on it, and we are also working closely with JKIM on this initiative, and where it fits. So what's important is why we are using it, and as Donald mentioned, there's a big change in the humanitarian landscape, and right now, there is 6% of the humanitarian assistance that is delivered in cash and voucher, this technology allow us to do this transfer in a more secure way, and also the market is very segmented, so using a system like that allow us to use aggregators and to streamline the way we distribute humanitarian assistance in cash and voucher, but not only, as Donald mentioned, also it allow us to distribute assets and manage that. That's very important. It's not new, but what's new is the technology is changing and the markets are mature. In countries where we are intervening now, the financial service providers are able to provide the services we want. The mobile money providers are also have a network covering our area of interventions. And when they don't, we can use e-voucher or what we call closed loop system, where we don't rely necessarily on network and connectivity. Finally, a last word on the context. There is a big push humanitarian level. Recently, last year, we endorsed what we call the Barcelona principle, which are the principle for digital payments in humanitarian response. And 18 organizations responded to this call, including the UN agencies, CRS, and major NGOs such as IRC, Mercy Corps, including ourselves. And also we had what we call the World Economic Forum Principle and Public-Private Cooperation in Maritime Payment, which also included the major financial service provider in this call. So like MasterCard endorsed this call, trying to digitalize the payment in humanitarian assistance. So that's it. I will keep it short to leave some question. But please do contact me and Brian if you want more information. Thank you very much.
And I just wanted to add, we're going to be looking to have you on to give a webinar on CAD as it's formalized, particularly the SOPs, the standard operating procedures. These are great things to share in this webinar series as time is available from you all. And another topic I think would be great, this seems that we have a lot of good internal learning on, is dealing with financial institutions. I'd love to see something on that if anybody has any, even if it's a project level field experience, because what we know in the United States is we have credit scores, and those credit scores that allow us to build assets and take risks that often are missing, opportunities are missing, and the impact in business space in developing countries. And so even though we often look at these people as beneficiaries, they're really participants, and they are managing finances, and they are attaining assets that can be used to get financial services. I think what I've been following this literature for the last few years online and seeing what's happening, and people are availing credit in places I didn't assume off of non-traditional data sources. So what I see here is a wealth of data that can be used to create financial opportunities for a market segment that needs those opportunities to improve their livelihoods. So that's fantastic. I'd love to have a presentation on those things. So it's great to hear these things happening.
Great. Thanks, William and Donald. And also, as William was mentioning about Barcelona gathering of people who are committed to this, there was also the Grand Bargain deal, which was done over in Istanbul at the World Humanitarian Summit, and the concept was to pledge up to $1 billion to various modalities to improve accessibility of aid and accountability, and cash was a major aspect of that. And finally, before we open up for questions, I'm going to ask and hopefully see if we have Orkan. Are you there?
I have him online. I think his skis are on mute. Here he comes.
Yes, I'm here.
Orkan is our chief technician, who's worked over in Nigeria with CRS on our BedNet project. So this was a major project that we did for scale. So Orkan is just going to quickly just give a brief overview of this, just give a real example of a country using a big in-kind distribution. So Orkan, if you can just keep it short enough and give us a brief information, and then we'll open up for questions.
Sure, thank you, Brian, for the good presentation. And hello, everyone. I'm Orkan, as Brian said. I'm currently doing some project management in RedRose. I'm in Turkey. And this Nigeria project is my main focus point right now. So this is actually the dashboard of the Nigeria project. This BedNet project is actually is to cover the whole country, and since now it has been done by a paper-based system, so the registrations first are taken, and then the distributions of the nets has been done through the paper-based system. And this year they wanted to go for the ICT4D for this stage, and we just added
No,
Orkan, you're on mute again, so if you can unmute yourself. We lost you.
So yes, and now I can you can hear you.
Thank you.
So this is the dashboard of the Nigeria project. As I said, we finalized the stage, and now moving on with two other states in Nigeria, actually, to a full rollout. And this is the data from the pilot of the Nigeria project. So as you can see, in this project we are doing three main things actually. The first one is the trainings of the staff that will work there. These will be the registrars, the distributors, and everyone. Since this is a big aspect, there will be a whole lot of people working on this project. So the first stage is to train people who will train the people to work in
Training of
Nigeria.
trainers.
Yeah, to training of trainers basically. And after that stage, we are moving on with the registrations of the households. So those people's actually it is to be 2,000 people working for the rollout actually for the first stage of the rollout, and it will be then 6,000. And then these people will go to households. They will register the demographics of those households, and then with these registrations, they will deliver paper vouchers to these houses. This is basically an in-kind distribution project based on paper vouchers. So with these paper vouchers, the households will go and collect their bed nets actually. Since malaria is a big problem in Nigeria, this bed net project has a big influence on the country actually. So when we look
Orkan, we lost you again, I'm afraid.
at 5,000 nets. So this is basically the World Health Organization's numbers. They wanted 1.8 nets per the households. And as you can see, there has been 30,000 redemptions done in the LJ. And if you can switch to the other dashboard, Brian, we can look for the registrations. This is the distribution dashboard.
We just in general just shown just and they're pretty hard to see. We just wanted to give the audience an indication of an actual project and a program, and to show some visualizations on the maps and the data and the figure.
So this is the training dashboard actually. This shows the trainings of the peoples. These are the registrations of the trainings. And the last one is the registration dashboard. I think we can also show that because there has a map. It's the first one actually that was on.
This is
Yes,
we just need to leave a few more minutes for questions, so if we can wrap this up real quick. This is interesting though, Orkan, very interesting. Thank you.
Okay, Orkan, thank you. The whole we just want to bring Orkan in just to show you an example of the actual project with real maps and data to show the end use. So I think now is a good time that we'll open up for questions to I'm here, and we still have Donal and William are there as well. Katrin?
I have loads of questions, but I don't want to take over the floor, so I'm just going to wait one more moment. Anybody else on the line have questions? All right, well, while they're getting their brains warmed up, I feel like this is often a tool that we talk about in the emergency space. It's really great that you talked about bed nets. Can you give us this is an example of the most untraditional or different project that you've seen this used? It doesn't have to be a CRS example.
The BedNet in kind stands out in particular because of its volume and the numbers. I think also in Haiti there was the use of multiple modalities, which was really interesting and won't deny challenging.
Could you explain multiple modalities a little bit for people who are unfamiliar with that?
Well, it was the use of the platform offers various features, and it's the use of taking on seeds transfer, and they're looking to integrate with financial service provider to use smart card transactions. So it's taken on 3 or 4 different concepts all at the same time, managed by the same platform. Traditionally, in places probably like Guatemala, there's a stable system, stable modality that's used. Um, we, the livelihood seeds fairs have been very interesting and challenging in the likes of DRC in very remote areas. But the concept of now integrating with FSPs and money providers, so I think Donald referred to it. This is a lot of work that we're looking to do, but nothing strangely out of the ordinary. We've just got some standard projects that's all being managed through the system. But we do have the ability to do multiple projects at the same time in the one country.
Well, I'm excited to hear about seeds because I've worked on projects where we've given seedlings, and I think there's a real value to understanding who has them, showing that they are taking care of them in a monitoring system that we can then share with financial service providers to get loans. Because, you know, a lot of the trees we're talking about, they're cash crops, so coffee, cacao, things of that nature, which take a while to reach maturity, but still show a lot of promise in terms of getting financial services in places that have traditionally not had access. Rural areas suffer a lot from lack of options or not even having financial service providers in the area. So fantastic to hear that as a possibility outside of emergency for anybody on the call. Any questions before I end this presentation from anyone online? Unusually quiet. You know what I think is that y'all have, you all, excuse me, have answered all the questions and really given a thorough presentation. I think everyone's just kind of like left in shock mode, like taking it all in, marinating. But if in case anybody has questions after this and they're walking around thinking, oh, what about that? Please send me an email, reach out to Brian, people at CRS. We're here to answer your questions, and we want to make sure that everybody benefits from those questions, because I think I used to be a teacher, and one of the rules I had is if there's no stupid questions, there are only stupid answers, and that if somebody asks a question, there's probably 3 or 4 other people in the room that have it. They're just not brave enough to ask. So please share us your questions.
And Catherine, you can see my email there, can't you?
Great, thank you. Oh, we've got one in. Nancy maybe is asking a question. Great presentation. Okay, that's good. Cost questions. We do have proprietary cost with RedRose because we have a contract agreement with them. Brian, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, as you mentioned, as part of the global framework agreement with CRS and the CAT system. So we've reduced costs for service fees and various different features of distribution, like in kind and all that. But cost comes in 2 segments, and one is hardware, which is a phone. A phone's a phone. So, you know, we supply our hardware, all hardware, the NGO or the individual country, CRS country. They can get their own hardware. If they can get it, fine. As we say, we just emphasize as the correct specifications. The only hardware that has to come from RedRose is the smart card. And the smart cards come at various costs, if they're branded, unbranded, etc. But as I said, we're standardizing the card for CRS. And then the other cost is service fees. And the service fees separate to the hardware. As I said, it comes at a reduced cost now, the service fees, and you know, we look at a sliding scale with large amount of money going through this system. So cost is done through service fees and through hardware.
I have a document with our costing that we're sharing in a one-pager. I'm going to share it in the text box, but I just wanted to specify that this is a confidential document that must stay within CRS. So I will share that right now. So here you go. Cost, it's on page 25, Annex 2, and this is confidential to CRS, so do not share it with outside the organization.
Yes, and sorry, it's William Martin here speaking. So just if you compare like all the costs with technical assistance and all these things, usually it ranges between like 5 and 8%, depending the country program and the delivery mechanism, which is in range with the industry. If you compare with competitors, that's the cost of setting up the infrastructure basically, and or using existing infrastructure to make the transfer, but also all the monitoring and evaluation. So it's very competitive, and donors understand that very well.
Also, thank you, William. And another cost, William, is you want to mention too, is if we are working with a financial service provider, so to be a third party cost. Do you want to talk about that, William?
Yeah, I mean, we aren't going in detail here about the cost structure, but yeah, like it could involve, depending of the service provider we are using, that could involve a third party, because we aggregate with other services. But again, overall, if you calculate, the technical support we have, the investment this organization made in infrastructure in country previously, our intervention and all these things, it's really, really cost effective. And again, the donors understand the idea. So as long as we justify our response, there is no issue particularly. We never face an issue with including that in our budgets.
Great. Well, thank you. I think we're going to wrap it up just because we're a little bit after the hour, and I just would want to encourage anybody on the line who is already a RedRose user, we'd love to have you present. We'd love to hear from you. So, and anything coming up with this software that you think could benefit other country programs, it'd be great for us to hear. So please reach out to me. I think all know who I am, but I'll put my name in the chat box just in case you forgot. Death by repetition. So thank you again, and I'm going to stop today's recording.
Okay, thank you all.